Hello everybody, Brad Johnson here. Now, out of all the videos that I have done throughout my channel, this is the least favorite one that I am wanting to do. It is not a pleasant video, but I have received from Spirit that this information needs to come out, and so the topic of this video is called The Fall of the Dark Age. Okay, it is something that is important for a lot of us to know. And especially with this video, I ask all of you to please keep an open mind with what is going to be shared throughout this video, okay? Because it may contradict a lot of things that you have read, that you have heard, etc., pertaining to what has been happening on this planet. What have we been going through? What is this dimension all about? Why are we here? What's going on? What about the aspects of Saturn? What about the aspects of Venus? What about the Earth? What about Lucifer? What about Satan? Right? This is what we're going to be talking about. So like I said, please keep an open mind. I understand if people may not agree with the sharing that I'm going to bring, but all I'm sharing is a perspective that is coming through Spirit, and it is up to you to create any particular type of discernment relating to what I'm going to discuss. Okay? So now that that's out of the way, that's kind of the disclaimer, we will look into the fall of the Dark Age. Now, what is so special about the Earth is that it truly is a cosmic gem. Right? A nice, beautiful, shiny diamond here, a beautiful jewel. And again, as I've talked about in the past, Earth is a God world, right? Even in the Bible, the earth is God's footstool, right? And that represents the idea from heaven to earth, there is that link. And earth represents this gem, this beautiful jewel. And she is a feminine jewel. That is what she represents, okay? Now, when we look at the idea of earth, we look at the name of Sophia. Okay? Sophia representing the mother goddess of the earth. And that is, again, there's other terms as well too. There's Terra, there's Gaia, etc. Yes, these all represent the idea of a divine, loving mother goddess. And that certainly is how Earth started out. She was indeed a beautiful, feminine goddess who allowed so much beautiful diversity of life to come upon her surface. There's so much life on our planet that I could fill over 100 worlds worth of life. Everything within the universe is contained on Earth. So if we look at the vastness of the universe, everything that we'll find in the universe, we can trace back here to Earth. Okay? This is how precious Earth is. This is the beautiful jewel that she truly is. Now, of course, as I've talked about in the past as well, the entity that I channel, known as Adronis, has come through, and he's talked about Saturn as well too. Okay? Saturn is feminine. Saturn was a goddess. Okay? Basically referring to Saturnia, a goddess, name of a goddess. And that was our original sun. Saturn was once a sun. And when she shone her light upon the earth, it was a beautiful time. It was a prestigious time. We had a very different type of sun at that particular time. And you can actually look through ancient history, because a lot of the ancients agreed that Saturn was indeed our sun. But then what happened was that there was a takeover that took place, because as Earth had so much connection, so much energy flowing through every bit of life that was cultivated by God, right? All primordial life coming here on Earth, including the human race as well too, which Adronis has talked about is not Homo sapien, right? But human being, or Homo human, to put it in that kind of a way as well too. But again, there was a takeover. There was a battle, a conflict relating to everything that this star system held. That again, it was just like looking at a star system of beautiful jewels, a star system of purity. That's really what our star system represented in the ancient times. We had Meldick, that was here as well too. Okay, and Meldick was a colossal super Earth. And of course, Meldick fell into war and it exploded. Okay, there's a lot of people who I've talked to who have had ancient memories of Meldick, and they knew that there was a forecast, there was a prophecy relating to the destruction of Meldick. And now there's many different theories as to how Meldick was destroyed. Some people will feel that it was Planet X came in and smashed right through Meldick. Well, firstly, Meldick was colossal. It was gigantic. It was several times the size of the Earth, right? It's not a small planet. And that Planet X would not have enough of its own might, you could say, to smash through a Goliath planet like Meldick, okay? It was not the idea of a smashing of one planet into another, because basically if that happened, you'd still have a very large chunk, a very large portion of the planet still remaining. If you basically try and take anything and try to smash it into another object, right? If it's a small sphere and a big sphere here and you smash it in, sure, that big sphere is going to shatter a lot, but there's still going to be very, very large chunks of that planet remaining. Now, from what Spirit is telling me, that is not what happened, okay? What happened was an internal war, an internal nuclear war to where the core of the planet, the singularity of the planet, exploded from the inside. So it's like taking a big sphere, drilling a little hole right into the center, and putting a very powerful detonation device in there, and then watching it explode. It exploded directly from the inside. And so all of these pieces that came from Meldick, even a couple other satellites as well too, were enveloped in the explosion. And of course, Mars, Earth, Venus all had to be rearranged into other proper orbits so that the life upon Mars, Earth, and Venus could survive. But Earth, Mars, Venus were once the satellites that represented Meldick. It was not just Mars, okay? It was Mars, Earth, and Venus. They were the satellites of Meldick, okay? Now, one of Meldick's other original names was also Melona. It was also known as Lucifer as well too, depending upon the background that you check, right? So you have Meldick. Even Tiamat is another word for it. You have Melona. But of course, the word we're focusing on here is Lucifer. All right? So that's another focus that I want to bring to this conversation as well, too. When we look at the name Lucifer. Okay? Well, what is Lucifer? Oh, Brad, it's a devil. It's Satan. It's evil. No. Lucifer was never evil. Okay? Lucifer was on the left hand to what we know as God. Right? On the right here you had Michael. On the left here you had Lucifer. Okay? Now, some people felt that Lucifer had a cocky attitude and that the light within Lucifer was so bright and that this represented Lucifer's downfall, and Lucifer was cast out of heaven because Lucifer had so much arrogance. No. That also did not happen, okay? This is basically what has happened relating to the rising of a dark age that is going to be leading to the fall of a dark age. Lucifer represents the divine feminine. Okay? Lucifer, in her true natural form, is female. is feminine. Okay? But there have also been a lot of divisions pertaining to her energy that connect to male energies, that connect to the masculine, that connect to a tainted masculine as well too, because of basically trying to take that name and abolish it and putting it into her feeling like she's some big, nasty, awful, evil devil, and that he's awful and Lucifer's awful and Lucifer's evil, and Lucifer is the complete and total prime aspect of all that is horrible, horrifying, tragic, evil. So when we look at the true nature, the true form of Lucifer, we are looking at a pure goddess archangel. Okay, and she was the light bearer. She was the one that brought forward the light. Okay, even when we look at Venus as the morning star, she is also referred to as Lucifer. Why? Why would she be referred to as Venus? Venus being referred to as Lucifer, the morning star. This is the devil. This is the aspect of Lucifer being the devil. So why would we call a beautiful planet like Venus the devil? Because she's not. Because Lucifer never was a devil. Okay? Now again, what I'm about to share is still going to stretch a lot of your boundaries. So just be prepared here, okay? If we look at the word Satan, okay, what instantly comes to mind? The devil. The devil. Demonic energy. Horrible. Evil. Nope. Satan is linked to Sirius. It's also linked to Isis. The aspect of Satan in its original meaning represented a priestess, right? Like a high priestess, to what we could understand linked together with Sirius, the star of Sirius, linked together with Isis. So again, what we're discovering here with Lucifer, with Saturnia, with Satan, we're all looking in the feeling that, my God, these are evil. I mean, Saturn's evil. Saturn's evil, and Venus must be evil because she's referred to as Lucifer. And Satan is evil because that's all we've heard. We've heard in the Bible. It's always talked about Satan, 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 Satan. Well, you have to understand that the Bible itself has been plagiarized, right? It has been reversioned over and over and over again. It's been completely remade to serve those in power. If you guys keep thinking that you're going to find any form of salvation based upon what a person writes in aspects of ancient history, you're being foolish. It's the idea of that old phrase, right? History is written by the winners, right? You have these churches that have come together. They've looked at all of these ancient gospels, and they've only put together what they feel would be appropriate to serve their purpose to create a dominion relating to their own empire. And so we'll make Jesus like a deity. We'll make Jesus like a god. Yes, Jesus actually existed, but he was never ever to be seen as a deity, to be seen as a god, right? So forget the Son of God, he'll be God. Jesus is the way. Jesus is Savior. Jesus is the light, etc. Jesus was a remarkable man, a beautiful person. But again, what also made him special was his connection to Magdalene. Okay? This again representing the divine feminine, the divine masculine coming together, but that has been completely hidden from the Bible because you have to have a savior figure, and Jesus fit the bill for that. And so Christianity's God was not God, him or herself, but Jesus. And that's the great distortion. Jesus was never here to say, hey, I'm God, you all need to worship me. No, that was never his task. To be a son of God is to work in bringing the light, the truth, to everybody else and saying that as I am the Son of God, so are you, sons and daughters of God. You can all become what I am. In fact, you can all become better of what I am. That's what the true Jesus was speaking. That he was completely committed to the Creator's path, as I've talked about before. The Creator's path is what he was following. And God was all about him. He was all about God. God was all about him. And saying, listen to him. This is what he's saying. This is why he has been chosen in that way, etc., etc. But Jesus came forward to show people the God that they can become, but not the true God, right? We all become gods in training, as Adronis has spoken about before as well. So again, there has been so much perverted dialogue relating to all of these ancient texts because, again, believe it or not, so many of these ancient texts, so these texts throughout ancient history have been doctored, have been changed, have moved into some particular type of political transformation that serves the aspect of a dominion, mostly common to the idea of a conqueror God, a God who conquers. That God loves you, but if you defy him anyway, he'll send you into the fiery pits of hell. That is stupidness. And that is created by these churches. That is created by these empires. That is created by all of this to, again, usher in a dark age of suppression. Okay? Completely suppressed knowledge. And the knowledge that we do get a hold of, we start reading and say, hey, here's some ancient texts. Sounds pretty good, blah, 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 blah. But then we don't understand the underlying principle. Because I'm going to get right into the meat of the dark age here as well, too. About what's happened to Saturn. And relating to people feeling that Saturn is all about Satan in that way, but Satan in a different form. All right, so I'm going to clear some of this away. So, Saturn herself, as I said, represents a goddess, Saturnia. And basically, through the takeover that happened, often caused again through the Draco, hundreds of thousands of years ago, Saturn was a portal system. She was a gateway. She was actually able to bring in a lot of the light, right? Jupiter represented the masculine body, right? And the two of them would work together. Jupiter, the masculine, Saturn, the feminine, in that way. Almost going back into Osiris, Isis, right? And their link to the idea of Jupiter and Saturn as well too. But again, what you do is that the feminine truly holds prestige. She is the one that is the code bringer. She brings the codes to the masculine. And the masculine is the one that receives all these codes of pure love directly from the Creator. And that is what enhances the masculine. Okay? The masculine cannot really be whole without the feminine codes, because even if we're looking back into how children are born, we all start off as female energy inside the womb, right? We basically have two X chromosomes. But then again, the Y chromosome will come in for males, and that will develop at a certain point for us to become male. But before that time, all vertebrate embryos represent that of the feminine, of the female. So again, that's how we all start off. So the female holds all the true codes, okay? They are all about being the stewardesses, the facilitators of pure love, right? And this is where we look into the ancient aspects of tantric arts, because when men started to come upon the planet, because humanity was once androgynous, when we look back into the continent of Mu, there was a lot of androgyny that started off in the very beginning pertaining to the aspect of man, or again, pertaining to the aspect of androgyny, or women in that way. But you couldn't really determine if they were women or in that sense, because they basically start off as androgynous beings. And again, of course, this represents the chalice, the cup, representing that of the divine feminine. Okay? So again, starting in Mu, we were basically androgynous, and that there was a time to where a mutation took place and where women were actually able to have males when they gave birth. And so the males came upon the planet and they were inducted into the idea of tantric arts, to being able to bring the fullness of codes together within them, right? So if this representing the masculine, the feminine would work together with the arts of Tantra to bring the true codes into man, right? It was not about the idea of them ejaculating and getting a woman pregnant. It was the idea of tantric arts, right? The idea of the power of orgasm that would therefore bring all of these codes into the male template. And now males would actually have that code that would now therefore represent the completion of their being because they had Kundalini awakenings, right? When you have Kundalini awakenings, your codes are fully activated, female and male, okay? So women were seen as the bridge, the link, the gateway to heaven, just as Saturn originally was the link, the gateway. She opened herself up and brought in the energies of heaven into the star system, okay? That was her beauty, that was her joy, that was her purpose. Her entire purpose of being was to bring in these love codes, these love energies from heaven. She was a buffer. But then when a takeover came together, Saturn was, you could say, completely destroyed. She now exists just as a dying star, or what we could almost see as a planetary body right now. And again, relating to the aspects of the rings, represent this type of magnetic restraint upon her in that way. The aspect of the rings themselves represent that of a technology. And so this represents the idea of a beautiful, loving, harmonious goddess that has been kept inside a capsule. Okay? So if I was to draw this big sphere around here, and I started drawing these lines, this would represent pure and total corruption, okay? And that her entire axis tilted. That's why when you look at Saturn, she's at an axis. Originally, she had no axis. She was completely in alignment. She tilted. And as she tilted, this represents the idea, almost like looking at an inverted pentagram, okay? I'm not going to draw it, but you get the idea, right? So if we're looking at an ordinary pentagram here, and we flip it around, then we look at an inverted pentagram. And that is exactly Saturn's current state. She is an inverted pentagram, pertaining to this takeover, to this prison that she is contained in. And who was it that did it? Yes, it was the Draco. But again, there's higher ups past the Dracos. There's the soul rebels. Okay, the soul rebellions. They were the ones that truly wanted to imprison Saturn and ensure that none of this heavenly energy from higher dimensions was coming through Saturn right now. She's skewed. So now she can't bring in those heavenly energies. So now this creates a descent into lower dimension because of what happened with Saturn. Saturn, again, was like Lucifer. She was bearing the light. And Jupiter, again, representing the masculine, like Michael, right? And now feel that there was an imbalance, an incompletion. And Michael, or Jupiter itself, became contaminated, thrown by war as well, too. The idea of what you understand as a gas giant altogether are often the results of large planets that are about to be stars, or these large star bodies that are being corrupted. And that's the exact same thing that happened to Jupiter, also happened to Neptune and Uranus as well too. They were two, almost like the son and daughters, the twins, in that way, pertaining to the mother and the father, representing Saturn and Jupiter. And they too were being corrupted as well too. And they were light bringers. They too were light bringers in their own way. Jupiter again was the powerful masculine energy, right? So again, to preserve Earth, Venus, Mars, moved closer into our current star, which again embodies the energy of Michael, representing a masculine star in that way. Sophia, again representing the Earth, is again the aspect of Lucifer, the aspect of that. So you could say Sophia is Lucifer, Lucifer is Sophia. Lucifer also represents an embodiment of this Earth, representing the Sophia energy, which again is a fractal consciousness pertaining to the idea of Lucifer. the divine goddess, the pure energy, the light bringer of the heavens. And Saturnia, again, represented that as well too. So now when we look at Saturn and everything that happened pertaining to its takeover, you basically are seeing this beautiful goddess in chains, contained inside this bubble, constantly being tortured, constantly being mutilated, constantly being molested, constantly being victimized, constantly being brutalized, having all kinds of horrible, corrupt, hideous, insidious, despicable, disgusting things happening to a goddess that is like this, that is basically strapped upon this demonic structure that represents this prism, where her whole body is shifted in this way, and everybody looks at her and says, oh, Saturn's evil, she's evil, he's horrible. Now I'm saying it as a he, right? Saturn's horrible, he's awful, ugh, the devil, the devil, the devil. You're not even looking inside the heart of Saturn when you say that. You're only looking at the surface. You have no idea what this goddess has been through. She was all about light bringing. She was all about bringing the heavens into our star system and bringing about a truly prosperous age. And again, this is all part of humanity looking at the surface, looking at the cover of the book without actually being able to go into the heart. And so Saturnia, Saturn, which again you can also refer to as Satanus, etc., all of that, was demonized. It was all demonized by these soul rebellions. Because what these soul rebellions would do, as I've talked about in a previous video, is they would completely vandalize everything that was God's loving creation. They will vandalize planets. They will vandalize people on those planets. They will vandalize systems. They will vandalize everything internally pertaining to a planet so that they can have their rule. So they can turn everything up on its head and now benefit from completely corrupting people and keeping things in darkness. And this is exactly what's happened to Saturn. Venus herself went through a vicious war as well too. And she too, a beautiful goddess. When you actually look at her cyclic orbital path, it forms a pentagram, right? Her orbital path forms a pentagram. And she too was part of the balancer, like the daughter of Saturn, that's saying, Mother, I'll keep this all in balance. I'm going to keep this all together for you, right? She's being like a good daughter to her mother in that way. And she too, just like this, strapped inside this prism, and again, tortured, mutilated, raped, molested, victimized, brutalized, completely humiliated, right? It's awful looking at all of these things. And it was a few weeks ago that I was actually just at a beach, and I was getting these downloads as I was looking into Saturn, as I was looking into Venus, as I was looking deeply into the Earth's heart. All goddesses, right? Mars, yes, of course, representing that masculine energy, but represented a very harmonious masculine energy as well too. But then, of course, became corrupted as well and went through a great downfall. So this dark age, and what it has done, is its philosophy is saying, we will take everything that's enlightening upon this planet and we will demonize it. We will take all the goodness out of these goddesses and we will demonize them to think that the people think they're the devil. They're demons. They're awful. When you look at the planet Saturn, you're instantly thinking it's a devil. It's Satan. Get back. Evil. Well, it's true. There is a lot of evil around Saturn, but Saturn's heart is not evil. It's the prism that is around Saturn. It's those rings that are like handcuffs. And I know Adrona said something a little bit different relating to Saturn, saying that they weren't really handcuffs, but they did represent in that sense a type of magnetic aspect. But from what I've discovered a lot more, it is actually true. They are actually much more handcuffs than anything else. It's a restraining field. It is a type of magnetic in that way. So gone a little bit deeper into this, and it was true that Saturn is actually bound together through these particular types of handcuffs that are termed as these rings. These rings are a technology, and they're frequency generated, right? They're just like this incredible frequency orchestra of sound that is basically keeping her at bay and basically blocking out any higher dimensional energies that can come through her. So that ring is a bind. It is a handcuff relating to that of Saturn. And so she is bound here. And as long as this ring is here, it's like it's interfering with her own natural frequencies. It's interfering with her own natural gateway to bring in heavenly energies onto this, into the star system. So she again has been raped, has been violated, has been mutilated. It has just been turned into a grotesque figure, to what we would think is the devil. And again, you listen to all these experts, and you look and listen to all these people. They're talking about, oh yeah, it's Saturn and the devil and the devil and the devil and the devil. Well, of course, because now you guys are just putting all of that energy and you're putting it into Saturn, and you're thinking exactly what they want you to think about the idea that Saturn represents Satan. As I've said, Satan never represented a devil. Even the word sin, from what I actually discovered from talking to another person the other day, the word sin also represented a connection to a goddess. But they say that you've sinned. You've sinned. You're off the mark. You're going to go to the devil if you keep sinning, 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 sinning. The word sin also relates to a goddess that has been demonized. Okay? Lucifer has been demonized. Satan has been demonized. Saturn has been demonized. Venus has been demonized, looking at the idea of it being called Lucifer. Right? Even aspects of our own earth are being demonized. Everything pertaining to the true path to enlightenment has been completely and totally demonized. It has been corrupted to the bone because, again, it's the idea of the complete and total suppression of the feminine. And the feminine is the way to God. You have to get into the feminine energies, right? It's not always talking about male, female, but it's looking into the idea of the feminine energy. It's the nurturing energy. It's the loving energy. It's the heart energy. It's the spiritual energy. It's the giving of life, the creativity energy. That's what the feminine is. And it's been demonized. It's been perverted. It's been slandered. It has been corrupted directly to its core, with these pure, beautiful goddesses strapped in the middle, and their own energy is being the power centers to corrupting and containing these prisms around these planets, and even around ourselves as well too. Because when something like this happens in our own star system, we all feel it, right? We are all linked to it. From the Earth to Venus to Mars to Maldek, that is no longer here, to Saturn, to Jupiter, to Neptune, to Uranus, right? All of these incredible, beautiful planetary star beings that have been corrupted. And this is exactly what a lot of the Draco do, is they will use transhumanism. They will put people in these pods and they will actually just disembody them. Their whole body becomes evaporated, vaporized, and they keep their soul and they contain their soul inside these transhumanism-based bodies, or pods in that way. And they use the energy of that soul to power these mechanical devices in that way. This is exactly what's happened to Saturn. Her rings are her restraint. Her rings are her handcuffs. And she is again having all this huge frequency bombardment through these rings that are again strapping her to this symbol. It's almost like looking at Jesus on the cross, right? And that too represents a demonic symbol. Whenever you're taking a sacred energy or sacred symbol like the cross, and you're taking a man who's been mutilated, who's been completely humiliated, that's bleeding all over the cross, that is truly demonic. Okay? I'm not even going to say satanic, because even the aspect of Satan represents that of a priestess, represents that of a goddess. But again, we've been told that it represents the devil. that it represents satanic, that it represents everything that's evil and horrible. No, what they're doing to these goddesses is horrible. The very people that are telling you those things are evil are very much the ones that have been responsible for continuing to keep a suppression upon the feminine. Okay, the feminine has been so badly raped these many hundreds of thousands of years. But the good news now is it's the fall of the Dark Age. Because many people are now starting to see this. They're starting to see how the feminine has been raped, how the divine feminine has been molested, has been brutalized, has been mutilated. And now, all of this light is coming upon our planet because this is a light of exposure. This is going to expose all of those old agendas. And we're starting to see it now with pedogate, with pedophilia, with this aspect of demonic worship, right? All of that's coming into the surface now. It's starting to bring itself up. And because it's starting to bring itself up, people are now going to get distracted by these other stupid stories, such as Area 51, which is one of the stupidest distractions there is. And they're going to get completely distracted by that, rather than looking in that sense relating to all of this energy that's coming up upon the planet right now, for all of us to focus on and continue to expose, to bring all of that out, because that's what's important. It's not about trying to think that you're going to raid a decoy installation base and that's going to bring truth. It's one of the stupidest things you can do, right? Even talking about it is really, really stupid. I'm just sharing my own perspective here, guys. But again, this is really important. If you truly want to look into the idea of bringing some great, incredible truth to the planet, you focus on what is completely exposing these very people that have created these demonic agendas, taking these goddesses and making them appear like they're demons, like they're the devil, like they're absolutely corrupt and they are the epitome of evil. No, they are not. That which is doing this to Saturn is the epitome of evil. That who has basically turned Saturn on its side and placed these handcuffs upon Saturn, denying heavenly light to come into this galaxy at that ancient time, is truly sinister, right? Even if you're talking about anything relating to the left hand, right? If you basically do a symbol and you do it with the left hand, think that you're instantly demonic. When it was all about the idea of the left hand, the left side, God bringing forward Lucifer upon the left side, right? The left hand of God was Lucifer, the light bringer, the divine feminine, the feminine goddess, right? So again, all of this stuff that was originally made to enlighten us has been perverted, has been corrupted, has been demonized, and it's sick. It's absolutely disgusting. There's been so much talking and so much rhetoric and doctrines in the ancient past and thinking that women were a secondary species compared to men. Are you kidding me? It's absurd. Thinking that women don't have chakra centers and women's brains aren't as big as men's brain. What arrogant bullshit, right? And this is, again, what we have put up with for thousands and thousands of years. They're basically feeling like, here's a strong man, right? Right here, ha. This big Superman chest. Oh, and here's a woman down here. You can barely see her. And again, that still exists in our society today. Disgusting. Ridiculous. If anything, it is the women that are indeed standing tall. It is the women that are bringing forward the codes to men. It is the idea that when you're going back into true paganism, not any distorted aspects, but the true aspect of paganism was all about the transcendence between male and female. That the women would bring men and give them the codes necessary for them to again communicate with God. Women were very much the responsible ones for activating the Kundalini in men. Right? It came through the idea of the ancient, undistorted acts of Tantra. Okay, so basically, you're looking at an inner practice, an inner tantric art practice that was responsible for raising our kundalini up, right? And that was where women had that responsibility. But over time, men became corrupted. The soul rebellions came in. They started to overcloak men and saying, you don't have to put up with what the women are doing anymore. You don't have to follow what they want you to do anymore. You're in command. You're stronger. You're mightier. Take control. Obliterate their empires. Obliterate their temples. Obliterate their churches. Burn them to the ground. And that's exactly what happened. And over time, again, there were just male priests, male preachers, male this, male that, male. And females were again just seen as peasants, being kicked on, being raped, being molested. We've seen this throughout the course of our history. It's not hard to see. But again, we look at this and we see what has happened. The aspect of the feminine has never been the enemy. It's the idea of a tainted masculine energy that is not at all natural. It is completely unnatural because that's what these soul rebellions do. They work with the Draco, they'll work with the Jinn, they'll work with any other particular type of species that they feel will deliver an aspect of conquest and chaos and manipulate them and overcloak them. And then again say, you take over. We will completely vandalize everything that God has done because we're God. That's how they think. They think that they are the one true God. They are so arrogant and so ignorant and so deluded that they will bring their warped philosophies into our culture, like exactly what has happened for hundreds of thousands of years on this planet. This is why I say you cannot really rely on these ancient religious texts because they've all been doctored. They've all been slanderized. If you truly want to go into the deeper levels of truth, you go inside yourself. You look at these things. You have to have that kind of evolved thinking. You have to look and saying, well, all I see here is a bunch of conquest. It talks about conquest and talks about dominion. That if you don't do this, here's your consequence. That's distortion. That's the red flag right there. As soon as you see that happening, that is, of course, where you question it. So you say, no, because the opposite of it is indeed the truth. It, again, is the divine feminine that's raising up, right? So when the fall of the Dark Age happens, all of this is being exposed. Everything's going to come to light. It's unavoidable. Even when they start doing ridiculous tactics, distraction-based tactics, all of that, doesn't matter. It's still going to be completely unveiled. The cloth is going to be pulled off and we're going to see this great ugliness. It's not just opening a can of worms, it's opening a whole ton of a can of worms. It's the most grotesque, disgusting, despicable thing that has happened on our planet, that has happened in our star system for several hundreds of thousands of years, right? Of course, we can look into all the aspects of Egyptian mythology and Greek mythology and Sumerian mythology and all that, but it all just points back to the same thing. It all points back to the idea that there is a divine feminine, a divine masculine, that there is a great holy war, that the idea of good and evil surmount in that way, and they battle. And of course, that is exactly what's been happening for the past several hundred thousands of years, starting with this. When Saturn became corrupted, when Maldek became destroyed, that's when all of this stuff started to go downhill. Okay? Maldek herself, because Maldek too was feminine. When she was destroyed, that was like the beacon. That was like the absorber, the collector of all of this pure heavenly energy that Saturn was giving to her. And she too was spreading it out as well too. She was like the oldest daughter of Saturn. And you have like the younger kids. You have Mars, you'd have Earth, you'd have Venus. Okay? You notice I'm not talking about Mercury? Because Mercury came in later. Mercury in that sense was something that came in a little bit later. It's a monitoring station in that way. So it's not really, it became part of our family later on, but it was not there at the times to which I speak. Same thing with Pluto as well too. not again for a very, very long time. So again, we're really looking at the core planets. We're looking at the planets that were here prior to that time, from Meldick, from Earth, from Mars, from Venus, Saturn, to Jupiter, Neptune, Uranus. Those are the core planets. Those were the light cultivators in that way, through the main cultivator representing the star of Saturn, that now is basically appearing as a dying planet. So it's very, very horrifying. But again, what is going to bring the fall of the Dark Age is exposure. And continuing to expose what are lies. Because that is what's going to end all of this. You basically say, excuse me, what you just said in your own little Bible is complete and total BS, because this is actually what's happened. And when we all come together and we all speak the loudest about that, all of this falls. And again, as I've talked about, when we're going through the dimensions, that we look at the third density, right, which also correlates together to the first and second density as well too. We come here and we are, again, beautiful light beings from higher dimensions coming here and now starting to uplift a lot of what is happening in this dimension. So as you start to bring a lot of love, a lot of truth through you, you start working through your emotional conflicts, you start working through all of these consequences and aspects of tragedies that you put yourself through, your light now starts to shine a lot more. So our whole goal as a collective is to put so much light into this dimension that this dimension no longer becomes solid anymore. Basically, what we're looking to do is completely cleanse out the third density until there is no more third density. We don't have a time frame for that. But where there is so much light in the third density, that density will basically move itself back up into the astral realm, and there won't be a solid third density anymore. Again, that takes a lot of work. That takes a lot of dedicated souls to spread so much love throughout all these planets, all these star systems, everything. But that is the eventual goal, is that this third density realm will fold upon itself through light and realign itself back into the astral realm, because all the third density is a technologically configured version of the astral realm. That's all the third density is. So where people are talking about life as a computer simulation, well, duh. Obviously it is, right? But we are looking into the idea of the third density, getting out of this hardness, getting out of this shell, this solidity, right? Because a lot of this solidity, a lot of this denseness that we've been experiencing is a technological program, and it's all been created through the aspects of this cold logic, this aspect of this coldness, or even this extreme heat that represents the aspect of conflicting emotions, right? That's how hard this is. This is a very difficult, I wouldn't say hard isn't difficult, but hard, it is difficult in a way, of course, because it's so solid, but basically representing that of rigid, solid, materialized realm that we exist in. And if we are able to lift it up with love, this third density will return back into the astral realm. It'll go right up into fourth density. That's not happening within the end of this age, but that is going to happen eventually in time. He said the third density will merge itself back up into the astral realm, and we will not have a third density anymore. We will not have a solid dimension anymore, because that's what we're here to do. It's like giving the entire, I guess you could say, nodes of these dimensional realms a Kundalini awakening, right? You start working together with the lower realm, you form Kundalini, you form love energy around it. It now starts to move itself upwards into the fourth density. And then you start doing that and more and more and more and more until everything comes back into the one harmonized. And that again is what represents the idea of a great graduation, where souls can now graduate to become gods of their own universes. God will give you your own universe as a god as you graduate past up these frequencies of great distortion, of great materialization, of great solidity. And you eventually graduate. Again, we don't have a time frame on that, right? But that is exactly what is going to happen. This whole third density is just a construct. It's a technological construct. It's something, again, that operates through certain forms of frequencies that create so much materialization, so much solidity. Very slow-moving atoms, you could say. And then when you move up into the fourth density, much quicker, right? Everything feels a lot more fluidic in that particular way. But this is what's going to lead to the fall of the Dark Age, is getting past all of this corruption, exposing, lifting yourself up into higher levels of consciousness, into higher levels of love, and sharing everything as a conduit, as Spirit speaks through you, just as like what I'm doing right now. So like I said, this is one of my least favorite videos to do, right? I don't like talking about this stuff. I don't. But again, Spirit says, you know, Brad, this is what you got to get out. You have to get this out. This is part of the sharing that needs to happen, because even though there are some people that are aware of this, there are many who are not. And this, again, is a video for those who are not really aware of this. Now, for you saying, oh yeah, Brad, I already know this. I don't know this stuff. This stuff is all good. Ha ha. Then you don't need to watch it. Go somewhere else in a nice way. But again, I'm sharing this for people who are not aware of all this, right? And I've just scratched the surface. I'm just giving you guys an elevator version about all that's happening. I could speak for many, many hours relating to all of this, to Saturn, to the Venus, to the star system, to the soul rebels, to the Draco, to the idea of the true divine goddesses, to where all of these demonized aspects of corruption has completely made the aspect of ancient goddess names demonized. They've made them dirty words. They've made them demonic words. And that's not what they are at all. But we are led to believe that that's what it is. And so we continue to think, oh, Satan, evil. Oh, Lucifer, evil. And all of that energy is being pumped and saying, ha ha ha, they're just maintaining this system. They're falling for it, hook, line, and sinker. We're telling them Lucifer's evil. They're buying it, ha ha. We tell them that the idea of Satan is evil. They're buying it, ha ha. We say the word sin. Oh, you get offended by that, ha ha ha. That's it. That's exactly how they think. And it's ridiculous. It's despicable. But that is exactly what has happened to our system. Our entire way of life. Everything that represents true enlightenment has been perverted and demonized. Okay, that is the outline. That is the sentence that I want to underline 1,000,000 times. Everything that we know to be enlightenment has been perverted and demonized for thousands and thousands of years. So it's time we started unperverting that. It's time we started giving love to Saturn. We started giving love to Venus. We start giving love most especially to the Earth. We give love to all of these ancient goddesses that have been here to bear, bind, and completely spread out the light, to contain it within themselves and spread it out. And that's what we're here to do. We're doing a lot of that work as these purely intelligent, loving beings of creation. And that will lead to the fall of the Dark Age. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll speak to you again in the next video. Take care.